Hi, my name's Chris and today we're going to be looking at the K40, which is a blue and white Chinese CO2 laser that I got off eBay back in 2017. The price was about £320 and it's the basic entry-level laser, really the cheapest laser that you can get, but there's a bit of a learning curve with it, and there's a few other odds and ends that you'll need in order to get it working. And you can see here below the table, one of those is a water tank with distilled water, which is used to cool the laser as it's working. And inside the tank there is a water pump which pumps the water through the tubes. And I also got a few extras just inside the box here in order to improve the design. Now you see here the computer that the laser software is running on, and there's a bit of history behind this computer because it belonged to my friend Cliff Leckie, who I met first of all at our Bible study on a Wednesday night. And Cliff was interested in motorbikes, but he sold his motorbike and he purchased an Amiga 1200 with the money that he made from it. And Cliff and I both had Amiga computers, and I would often call round to his house in order to help him with his computer problems. Well, Cliff eventually replaced his Amiga with a PC, and I introduced him to the Amiga emulator, which he ran happily on this PC for many years and developed animations in Deluxe Paint on his Amiga emulator. And so this computer has a lot of memories for me. Now, I've installed Linux in this computer, and it also runs the laser software, which I'll show you in a minute. Now you'll hear a bit of noise in the background, and that's just the water pump pumping the water through the laser tube. And you'll see here that I've installed Ubuntu Linux on it, and there's still some of Cliff's old software from his Amiga days on it as well, as you can see in the work partition. And so that's all still there from whenever Cliff was working on it. And this is actually Cliff's keyboard that he used on his PC as well, the RM Nimbus keyboard. It's interesting because there's no Windows keys on it, so it shows you how old that keyboard is. But you can look on the desktop and you'll see two icons up here, InkScape and K40 Whisperer. Now, whenever the K40 came, it was shipped with a CD with CorelDRAW on it, which is a vector graphic program, and it was also shipped with this little dongle here, which is on my keyring, which doesn't work anymore. But what happened with this is you plugged it into the laser, and the laser could not be used unless this dongle was plugged into it. And it's a security measure. It enabled a circuit board, which I'll show you just in a minute. It enabled it to work, and without this you could not power the laser, which is a good safety protocol to have. But the K40 Whisperer program enables the laser to work without the use of this dongle, which is handy because this stopped working on me eventually, and if I wouldn't have been able to use the laser because of that. Now this is inside the cutting bay, and you'll see here there is a vise for holding your piece in position just in order for it to be cut. It's quite a strong spring on it, so it doesn't really pull back very far, unfortunately, but some people get this vise removed and replace it with one that goes up and down and can take larger pieces. But I didn't want to do too much work in order to use it, so I just left it the way it was. Now you'll see a couple of modifications here that we made whenever the laser first came. This on the end here, it feeds into this air pipe, and this pipe runs through this chain, and out the side of the box and into an air pump. So whenever we're cutting wood, the airflow can come through the nozzle here and blow any dust or blow any smoke away from the wood that's being cut, so it doesn't get marked. So I just got these pieces off eBay, and this just sits here, so it enables the pipe to be taken out of the road of this laser head, because this moves about. And you'll see as well here there is like a little mini laser, and there's a connector on the end of it. And what this does is it enables me to align the cutting laser before I do the final cut. So I'll just plug this in here, and this connects to a wire with a battery on it. And if I press this, the laser, you'll see there's a little laser light appears, and that just shows me where the laser is going to cut the material. Now below here there's a piece that my dad made just to hold glasses in position just whenever they're being cut in the bay here, because this vise doesn't always fit the material that's being cut well, so sometimes you need a support beneath the object in order for it to be cut properly. There's a laser lens inside this head, and its focal length is a certain length, so whenever you're cutting the material or whenever you're etching the material, there's an optimal position that the material is held at, and in this case it's just where the vise is, but there is another lens that I got that has a closer focal length, so if you're doing an object that doesn't quite fit in the gap, you can change the lens and it'll cut with a different focal length. So I'll just show you inside the electronics here, and you'll see here there is a power supply. Now the power supplies of the K40 aren't very reliable, unfortunately, and I had to get this replaced just recently because it blew a fuse, and it's not a difficult job to replace it, but it involved reattaching this wire coil to the laser tube itself and applying some silicone glue in order for it to be insulated. So there is a little bit of work, and it's just I needed to get it done properly in order for it to be safe. So it did take a little bit of preparation, and I'll show you here the circuit board as well. So bottom right you can see the circuit board that powers the K40. It's basically like a printer circuit, and it just tells the head where to go and fires the laser. And it's this piece of board, I think whenever you're running the K40 Whisperer software, you need to check the board for a chip ID, and you enter the chip ID into K40 and it is able to unlock the board so that it can power the laser and print or etch your jobs. So that's just, you can see below here as well the pipe, the air pipe that leads to the laser head, and it's powered by this little air pump just over here. So at the back you can see a large blue tube, and this is there is a fan at the back here that extracts all the smoke if you're cutting wood or other material like wood. You can open the window and put the tube out the window, and that way you don't get poisoned with all the smoke and fumes coming out the back of the laser, which is a handy thing. Now I'll just show you the laser tube itself. It just opens like so at the back there, and you'll see there's quite a long glass tube, and it points into a little metal mirror which is directed into the main box where your material goes. So So that red wire is the bit that I had to wrap around the metal part of the laser and put the black silicone glue on it just to make sure it was insulated well. And you can see the extractor fan whirring away there as well. And I'll just show you the programs here. InkScape is very good, and I'll show you some of the designs that I made. I hope it's not too blurry whenever it opens. But this is just a very old PC running Linux, and InkScape's a free program that you can download, and lots of different Bible verses and things like that, just designed, and different sort of sizes and different rotations, just depending on whether I want to make a key ring, or whether I want to engrave a glass, or whether I want to make a plaque. There's all sorts of different designs in here. The one that we use quite often in the shop where I work is Scrabo Tower, because it's a local place of interest, and I have a few different designs, which is always a popular sort of emblem to have on different items just in the shop here. So that's our logo and our emblem. The name of the Lord is a strong tower, and of course that's Scrabo Tower, Proverbs chapter 18 verse 10. And of different designs that I made over the years. Another one of my favourites is He Careth for You, and I've sort of tried to make the verse sort of linked together like bricks on a wall, so that it emphasises just the different words in the verse. And I gave my former dentist a wooden plaque with that verse on it, and he was very appreciative of it. He's very glad to have it. And so you can see there a few of the different ones there. There's one there, I am the good shepherd, and that has a picture of a sheep on it as well. So you can not only do writing but also pictures, and it can handle different shades as well. For darker pictures, the laser fires a stronger, the software fires a stronger laser, which makes more of a mark. Now the settings on the laser, I'll just explain those as well to you. You'll see here a knob that says current regulation and milliamps in current indication as well. Now there's a couple of lines that I've drawn on the machine just to help gauge how strong the laser beam is firing. Completely to the right, that's off. There'll be no power going through the laser at all. Then this first mark here, that's whenever the laser starts to actually fire, so you can't go lower than this mark really if you want to be cutting or etching anything. And this mark here is how far you want to go. You don't want to go any further than this mark, because what they recommend is no more than 20 milliamps to be going through the laser, because if you put more than that through, then the life of the laser tends to be degraded. So it's best to go no further over 20 milliamps. So that's why I've drawn that line there, so I know not to go over that line. And then of course the dial goes all the way up quite far to that last line, so but that I was just indicating there how far it can go, but you only want to go up to there at the most. And for the glasses that I've been etching, it's been about there, but that just depends on how deep you want to etch into the glass. That the stronger the beam, the deeper the engraving will be. And the speed that the head moves at also is a factor, because if the laser head moves quite quickly, then there won't be much of a burn mark on wood. But if you want a good dark burn for like etching a verse and you need it to be black, then if you do a low power with a slow moving head, you control the speed of the head in the software, then it makes a good black etching on the wood. Now what I'm going to be etching today is this champagne flute. I was given these by my sister, and I thought it might be a good idea to try and put something on it. It's just the right size really for my laser bay, and I was going to see if I could put a nice logo or a nice verse on the glass without cracking it. And so that's what I'm going to show you today. And we're going to try and put Scrabble tar on the glass. Now normally if you're going to be doing a lot of cutting with the laser, you'll want to make sure that the laser tube is completely filled with water, because if there's any dry spots, if there's bubbles in it, that tends to heat up quite a lot, and the laser can crack if there is not enough water flowing through it. Now we're only going to be doing a little bit of cutting, so I'm not too worried about that happening. But normally if I'm going to be cutting for hours, then I would make sure there's no bubbles at all in the laser. And sometimes you have to wait just until the bubbles evaporate. If you keep it on for a few hours, the pump running, just until all those little bubbles evaporate and there's just complete water throughout the laser tube, and then you can start cutting. So I'll just show you what way this goes in. We just pull back the vice grip and then lay the glass just gently into the gap and align the base of the glass up just so the vice grip grips it in the middle there, just in that little gap. And the other end of the glass just rests against the metal, and that should be strong enough just to hold the glass in place while the laser head moves up and down and etches the glass. You don't want any vibrations or anything disturbing the glass, so that the image will be move whenever it's cutting. So this table is a little bit wobbly, but it's not too bad, you know, for just doing small jobs. Now whenever you're cutting glass, the heat can actually spread a bit through the glass and can cause the engraving to expand a bit, and that's not something you want to be happening. You want the engraving to be very sharp, and if the heat spreads throughout the glass, then it can cause the image to become blurred. So what people recommend is to just put a bit of tissue paper, or put a bit of tissue over the top of the glass and just dampen it. So I have here just ordinary water, and just put a few drops to dampen the tissue. And what that does is that keeps the rest of the glass cool whenever the laser is cutting, and only the bit that the laser is cutting is the bit that gets etched, and the rest of the glass isn't as affected because the water keeps it cool and stops the heat from spreading. So we just have to spread out the tissue so that there's no ripples or no bubbles, no air bubbles in it, just so it's nice and smooth. Sometimes if you've bubbles in it, then the laser won't cut properly, and you'll see a bit of a gap in your logo or in your image, which you don't want to have. So I'm just smoothing out all the ripples in the tissue paper just so it's nice and smooth. And then we'll start the laser. So that seems to be fairly smooth. So I'll just show you here the K40 Whisperer software. And you'll see there, we'll just turn the laser on and you'll hear it just initialize there, so it moves to the top left position. And initialize laser cutter just makes the laser head move to the top left, and then you click open design file and we will select the Scrabble Tower logo. So that's Scrabble Rot 2 small flat. That's the one we want. And you'll see here there is a number of arrows, and these are to move the image just so it lines up with your material on the laser bed. So you see here it's moving by 10 millimeters, and it's moving to the right 10 millimeters at a time. Now what I will do is I will plug in the mini laser pointer just to make sure that when the place where we are going to start cutting is on the material that we want to cut. So you see there, I will move the laser pointer just to be in the center of the image where I want the center to be. So, and then what I do is I align the dot just so it's in the center of the glass, so that I know it's going to be properly aligned. So I'll move it here by 1 millimeter just until that red dot reaches the center of the glass. And I'll look at it from a couple of angles just to make sure that it's right in the middle. Now what I'll do is I'll move the laser head to the extremities of the image just to make sure it's going to fit onto the material that we're etching, and make sure we have ironed out all those bubbles in the right places. So you see there, just make sure there's no bubbles. So it seems to be in the correct position for cutting. So I'll just detach the battery from the mini laser pointer, and what I'll do is I'm going to start the machine cutting, and normally I would close the lid so that there'd be no chance of any stray beams just doing any damage, but I'm going to leave the cover open just so that we can see what is happening whenever it is cutting the material. So this is a laser safety switch, and this needs to be enabled in order for the beam to function. So we'll press this just to enable the laser. Now I'm going to hit the button, and I'm going to stand just around the corner so that there's no danger of me getting hit by any of the lasers. So I'll just start the process now. Now the process is completed, so we just disengage the laser just for safety's sake, and then we'll see what we have produced. So you can see the image has been etched, the tissue paper has been burnt away, and there should be an etching on the glass now whenever we remove the tissue paper and remove all the excess tissue from the glass. It will be slightly wet due to the water, but you can see there that the logo has been etched onto the glass successfully, and you can see just the verse as well there in the glass. So that's a successful production of the logo on the glass there. And here you can see some of the other ones that I have produced on the wood. Now these are a little more difficult because they take a lot of preparation in the cutting of the wood and sanding it, and you have to use a bit of mineral oil as well just to make the wood sort of moist, you know, and so it doesn't dry out and crack. But that's the same logo produced on some wood and another verse there. So I hope you've enjoyed this video showing the K40 laser and what it can do on glass, and I hope to see you again sometime, and we'll look at doing a few pieces on wood.